Hello everyone, and welcome back. Hope you're ready for some more reading. I've got my book, and as you can tell, my therapy friends are here. So without further ado, shall we begin? If you remember, we didn't read a lot really. 1, 2, 3. We read about 4 pages because, it tackled the issue of racism, and I ended up going on 1 or 2 little tangents about how we shouldn't be racist. Also, if any of my anti-racist views did offend you, then I don't know what you want me to do. On with the book. The Emancipated Adult. The goal of transactional analysis is to enable the person to have freedom of choice, the freedom to change at will, to change responses to recurring and new stimuli. Much of this freedom is lost in early childhood, marking the onset, according to QB, of the neurotic process. This process is one which is continually involved in solving archaic problems, to the exclusion of dealing effectively with today's reality. The roots of the neurotic process may lie in a phenomenon of infancy and/or early childhood, formation of stereotyped behavioral patterns or fixations. These may include affective displays, for example, crying, screaming, night terrors, instinctual performance or non-performance, for example, eating, ruminating, vomiting, regurgitating, food refusals, compulsive food choices, patterns of excreting or retention, respiratory patterns such as breath holding, and so forth, or patterns of general actions, for example, tics, head bumping, rocking, sucking, and so forth. Not one of these acts is in and of itself inherently abnormal. As long as it can change freely in response to changing external or internal cues, it remains normal. It is the loss of the freedom to change which marks the onset of the neurotic process. We can change. Restoration of the freedom to change is the goal of treatment. This freedom grows from knowing the truth about what is in the parent and what is in the child, and how this data feeds into present-day transactions. It also requires the truth or the evidence about the world in which he lives. Such freedom requires the knowledge that everyone with whom one deals has a parent, an adult, and a child. It requires persistent exploration not only into knowable areas but also into indeterminate areas, which can best be understood in terms of another function of the adult, that of probability estimating. One of the realities of the human predicament is that we frequently have to make decisions before all the facts are in. This is true of any commitment. It is true of marriage. It is true of voting. It is true of signing a petition. It is true of the establishment of priorities. It is true of those values we embrace independently, that is, with the adult. The child in us demands certainty. The child wants to know the sun will come up every morning, that mother will be there, that the bad guy will always get it in the end. But the adult can accept the fact that there is not always certainty. Philosopher Elton Trueblood Elton Trueblood sounds like a... Well, it sounds like a... Really, like a... what's the word? Like something you might get in, say, Downton Abbey or something. Doesn't sound like a real name. Never met anyone called Trueblood before. Never heard the name, kind of think of it. Anyway, before I go on another tangent, the fact that Elton Trueblood states, the fact that we do not have absolute certainty in regard to any human conclusion does not mean that the task of inquiry is fruitless. We must, it is true, always proceed on the basis of probability, but to have probability is to have something. What we seek in any realm of human thought is not absolute certainty, for that is denied us as men, but rather the more modest path for those who find dependable ways of discerning different degrees of probability. This in the explorative realm of philosophy and religion, into which we will look further in Chapter 12, PAC and Moral Values. The adult in our businessman confronted with the housing petition can admit that the outcome of his signing is uncertain. If he signs, he may be ridiculed. If his I'm okay, you're okay position includes all persons, regardless of race or religion, He may be attacked by prejudiced persons who are in a position to hurt his income, his membership in the golf club, or the relationship with his wife. But you can also weigh the possibility that his contribution to a solution to racial unrest in his community may lead to a significant reduction in the problem. In the long run, it may bring stroke into his child in the form of a reputation as a man with integrity and courage. And that is the right decision. But quite frankly, the thing about principles is that sometimes you will get punished for them. I mean, this guy we're dealing with, if he does make the right decision, then he probably will face consequences from, racist people. He probably will not be allowed, or they probably will ban him from the golf club. His wife may also think, he's a bit dangerous now. But the thing is, when he makes the right decision, he can sleep at night knowing he made the right decision. That's the thing. Because even if he gave in to peer pressure, or is in a child and fear and didn't sign it, and kept everything the way it was, then that thought would be with him forever. Every night he went to sleep, he would go to sleep, close his eyes, and the thought would say, "You made life worse for a lot of people just to appease your inner child." Sometimes the inner child does not always knows what's best. The inner child will give in to peer pressure from bad people. You, however, don't have to. Just remember, it's important. Doing the right thing will not always be best, but it will help you sleep at night. Because otherwise, I'd rather go to bed at night knowing that I tried to do something right than, go to bed and be trolled by the thought that I didn't stand up when I should have done. When the parent or the child dominates, the outcome is predictable. This is one of the essential characteristics of games. There is a certain security in games. They may always turn out painfully, but it is a pain that the player has learned to handle. When the adult is in charge of the transaction, the outcome is not always predictable. There is the possibility of failure, but there is also the possibility of success. Most important, there is the possibility of change. What makes people want to change? 3 things make people want to change. One is that they hurt sufficiently. They have beaten their heads against the same wall so long that they decide they have had enough. They have invested in the same slot machines without a payoff for so long, and that they are finally willing either to stop playing or to move on to others. Their migraines hurt. Their ulcers bleed. They are alcoholic. They may have hit the bottom. They beg for relief. They want to change. Another thing that makes people want to change is a slow type of despair called ennui, or boredom. This is what the person has who goes through life saying, "So what?" until he finally asks the ultimate, big, "So what?" He is ready to change. That's me. That's me. It's me. He's talking about me. Me, me. This person here, looking at you. A third thing that makes people want to change is the sudden discovery that they can. This has been an observable effect of transactional analysis. Many people who have shown no particular desire to change have been exposed to transactional analysis through lectures or by hearing about it from someone else. This knowledge has produced an excitement about new possibilities, which has led to their further inquiry and a growing desire to change. There is also the type of patient who, although suffering from disabling symptoms, still does not really want to change. His treatment contract reads, "I'll promise to let you help me if I don't have to get well." This negative attitude changes, however, as the patient begins to see that there is indeed another way to live. A working knowledge of PAC makes it possible for the adult to explore new and exciting frontiers of life. A desire which has been there all along, but has been buried under the burden of the not okay. Does man have a free will? Or for that matter, do women also have free will? And the non-binary too, do they have free will? Let's find out. Can people really change if they want to? And if they can, is even their change a product of past conditioning? Do people have a will? One of the most difficult problems of the Freudian position is the problem of determinism versus freedom. Freud and most behaviourists have held that the cause and effect phenomenon seen in all the universe also holds true for human beings, that whatever happens today can theoretically be understood in terms of what has happened in the past. If a man today murders another man, we are accustomed of Freudian orientation to look into this past to find out why. The assumption is that there must be a cause or causes, and that the cause or causes lie somewhere in the past. The pure determinist holds that man's behaviour is not free, and is only a product of his past. The inevitable conclusion is that man is not responsible for what he does, that in fact he does not have a free will. The philosophical conflict is seen most dramatically in the courts. The judicial position is that man is responsible. The deterministic position which underlies much psychiatric testimony is that man is not responsible for virtue of the offence of his past. Now I would say we are. I mean, the past will define us all, and it can, as the book says, it can make a big change, but we can choose to be better. I mean, take for example, the Austrian dictator who had a toothbrush moustache. Yes, that one. He was beaten regularly by his dad growing up. Most days actually, because his dad was convinced he was failing school intentionally to humiliate him. And in truth be told, he was just an idiot and a second-rate artist. But those beatings probably was what led to him, to murdering 6 million plus people. And, starting those wars. It explains it, but it doesn't excuse it. Because at some point in his life, he could have said, I have suffered, but I don't want other people to suffer with me. See? You've got to be the change you want to see in the world. Even if you have suffered, okay, you should look and say, I don't want other people to suffer too. I want to stop the suffering. I want to stop the hurt. And therefore, I will not do to others what has been done to me. But the sad fact is, a lot of people will carry on. We cannot deny the reality of cause and effect. If we hit a billiard ball and it strikes several more, which then are impelled to strike other billiard balls in turn? We must accept the demonstration of the chain sequence of cause and effect. The monistic principle holds that laws of the same kind operate in all nature. Yet history demonstrates that while billiard balls have become nothing more than what they are, as they are called in the cause and effect drama, human beings have become more than what they were. The evidence of evolution and of personal experience convinces us that man has become more than his antecedents. I'll put the word up on the screen so you know what I'm on about. I'll probably put a little definition as well. Will Durand has commented on how 19th century French philosopher Henri Bergson relentlessly pressed the issue of determinism to absurdity. Finally, was determinism any more intelligible than free will? If the present moment contains no living and creative choice and is totally mechanically deprived of the matter and motion of the moment before, then so was that moment the mechanical effect of the moment that preceded it, and that again of the one before. And so on until we arrive at the primeval nebula as the total cause of every later event, of every line of Shakespeare's plays and every suffering of his soul, so that the sombre rhetoric of Hamlet and Othello, or Macbeth and Lear, in every cause and every phrase was written far off there in the distant skies and the distant aeons, by the structure and content of that legendary cloud. What a draught upon credulity! There was matter enough for rebellion here, and if Bergson rose so rapidly to fame, it was because he had the courage to doubt where all the doubters partly believed. The answer lies not in refuting the cause and effect nature of the universe, or of man's behaviour, but in looking elsewhere than in the past for cause. Man does what he does for certain reasons, but those reasons do not all lie in the past. In a television interview, I was asked my opinion as to why Charles Whitman climbed a tower at the University of Texas and shot scores of people on the ground below. Now, this is a shooting I do actually know, but I am kind of ashamed to say that I only know about it because it was referenced in The Simpsons. Don't know if you remember that episode where Homer and Ned Flanders become best friends. Ned Flanders has that dream where he climbs up to this tower and starts shooting everyone because he sees them all as Homer Simpson. I won't show you a clip because, copyright, but look it up. That is how I know what this shooting is. It's amazing actually how much history I've actually learned from pop culture references. It really is. After a recount of a number of possible reasons, I was asked, but why do some people do a thing like that and others do not? This is a valid question. If our position is that we simply don't know enough about the past history of an individual, then we still hold on to the position that somewhere back there lies an answer. Now, I've often said, I've not been through great trauma, so I can't really say what it's like, but you've got to stop and say, I don't want other people to suffer too. That's it. That's what you got to do. Admittedly, it is harder than what the others have done. Now, I get that it is hard, and I'm not going to speak for those with a lot of trauma, but you should not wish others to suffer what you have suffered, is what I'm saying. If you think about it, I'm right on this. Now, let's go back to rules. Here we go. There is an essential difference, however, between a man and a billiard ball. Man, through thought, is able to look at the future. It's influenced by another type of causal order, which Charles Hartshorne calls creative causation. Elton Trueblood elaborates this point by suggesting that causes for human behaviour lie not only in the past, but in man's ability to contemplate the future, or estimate probabilities. The human mind operates to a large extent by reference to final causes. This is so obvious that it might seem impossible to neglect it, yet it is neglected by everyone who denies freedom in employing the billiard ball analogy of causation. What caused the billiard ball moves primarily by efficient causation, but then operates in a totally different way. Man is a creature whose present is constantly being dominated by reference to the non-existent, but nevertheless potent future. What is not influences what is. I have a hard problem, but the outcome is not merely the result of a mechanical combination of forces, which is true of a physical body. Instead, I think, and most of my thought is concerned with, what might be produced, provided certain steps could be taken. Ortega defines man as a being which consists not so much in what it is, as in what it is going to be. Trueblood points out, it is not enough to say that the outcome is determined even by one's previous character, for the reality in which we share is such that genuine novelty can emerge in the very act of thinking. Thinking as we actually experience it daily is not merely awareness of action, as it is in all... I'm going to put the word on the screen, I can't... Epiphenomentalist. I'm going to put this word on the screen as well. Doctrine, but is a true and creative cause. Something happens when a man thinks which would not have occurred otherwise. This is what is meant by self-causation as a genuine third possibility in our familiar dilemma. Thus we see the adult as the place where the action is, where hope resides, and where change is possible. And that is it for tonight. On the next video we shall start chapter 5, analysing the transaction. Now obviously this one is not quite as long and I haven't gone on as many tangents, but my point still stands though. So no matter where you are, please take care of yourselves, and until next time, bye.